Today we'll be talking about the Bill of Rights. Now, the Bill of Rights are the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. And what we'll be doing is going through each of the first 10 amendments and having a little discussion about what they really mean, what rights they protect, and how these rights are interpreted in the United States today. So make sure you're doing your reading and taking notes from here. Okay, let's get started. The First Amendment protects freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly, and to petition. Now, each of those rights are very important in American society. Each of those are very different, though. Speech, religion, press, assembly, and petition can all be interpreted as many different things. And this amendment has expanded a lot in the last 200 years to encompass a lot of different types of expression, speech. Separation of church and state. This means that the government cannot order or mandate a specific belief system. Free speech. Slander is not protected. Printed words are considered speech, so expression has become a part of freedom of speech. Free press allows newspapers to print stories, but you cannot produce libel, stories that are untrue, that have no facts backing it up. That is considered illegal. More on the First Amendment, we have assembly. So you can have a meeting, a parade, a rally, anything to kind of gather something to your cause. A petition is a formal writing that you do to convince a larger group like your government, a school, a local legislature to change something in the government. But it has to be formal, has to be written, and has to usually get a certain number of signatures to pass. The Second Amendment. This is usually interpreted as the right to bear arms amendment. Now this kind of limits what it really says. It has to talk about a well-regulated militia citizens need to keep and bear arms. Well, we now have police and military, so is the right to bear arms as necessary as it was 250 years ago when the document was written? That we'll discuss in class at a later time. The Third Amendment, the quartering of soldiers by private citizens. So during the French and Indian War, British soldiers would often knock on the door of a colonist and say, hey, we're going to stay here. You have to feed us, you have to put us up for the night, because there were no army bases or military compounds for the British soldiers to sleep in. So they'd stay in private citizens' homes. And Americans did not like this at all. So that's why this amendment was added to the Bill of Rights. The Fourth Amendment, protection against unreasonable search and seizures. This means that police or the government needs to have a warrant if they're going to come into your home. That means that you can't just be searched for no reason. And with the whole NSA things that came out over the internet and phone, that kind of makes this a gray area. Does the government have the right to spy on its own people for security? The Fifth Amendment, due process of law and double jeopardy. There is due process. You have to be read your rights. You have to be told what you're being arrested for. You get to have the right to an attorney. You have the right to a trial by jury. You have the right to not be charged with the same crime. Usually this would be considered like murder cases. You cannot be charged with the murder of the same person twice. Obviously because they'd be dead, or if it was a faked murder, whatnot. The Sixth Amendment, a speedy and public trial. Once you are arrested, you have the right to have that trial done in a timely manner. Also, that trial should be public. You can waive your right to have a jury trial and just have a bench trial with a judge. But generally, if you are going to court, the jury might not be the worst thing in the world to have, because there might be somebody that interprets the laws the same way that your lawyer would interpret it. So it's not just the judge. The Seventh Amendment is a right to trial by jury for civil lawsuits if the monetary value is over $20. So if you are suing someone that's not a criminal case, maybe destruction of property by accident, if it's over $20, you can have a jury trial. If it's under $20, you can just go in front of a judge. Or, as most Americans like to do now, go to the People's Court or it's Judge Judy. The Eighth Amendment, protection against excessive bail. Now, bail is a way of kind of guaranteeing that you will come to court. You get in front of a judge, says bail is set at $1,000,000. You pay a certain percentage of that, or you pay all of that, or maybe a bail bondsman pays it and you pay a percentage to the bail bondsman. You are allowed to leave court, and you get your money back when you appear in front of court. It's a way of getting people to come back. The Ninth Amendment. Rights not written in the Constitution are still our right. For example, choosing friends and careers. And those are just two examples that were from the textbook. But if it is not in the Constitution, especially in the Bill of Rights, you have the right to do it. Now, there's certain laws that are outside of the Constitution that you have to obey, like it's not your right to speed or your right to drink and drive, because those are considered against the law, even though they're not in the Constitution. The 10th Amendment, powers not mentioned in the Constitution are given to the states. So, in the Constitution, the government is not in charge of education. That is a states' right issue. So the states get to choose what kind of laws governing education can go into effect. But that's not really the case in our modern society with our Department of Education and things like No Child Left Behind. Has kind of ruined that part of the 10th Amendment. Civil War amendments. These are some very important amendments. The 13th Amendment ended slavery in the United States. The 14th Amendment defines citizenship as anyone born in the United States. The 15th Amendment allowed for universal male suffrage. So after the Civil War, African American men could now vote. Women still could not vote until later amendments that happened in the 1900s. So voting right amendments. The 17th Amendment allowed for the direct election of senators. Prior to that, senators were elected by state legislatures. The 19th Amendment, universal female suffrage. 23rd Amendment, residents of Washington, D.C. could now vote for the president and vice president. 24th Amendment, African Americans the right to vote. 26th Amendment, voting age lowered to 18.